Hello and welcome to today's class. Today we'll be discussing on the Russo-Ukraine war. Now, prior to having a brief discussion on the Russo-Ukraine war, let us have a analysis of the history between the Russia and the USSR or the Ukraine. Now, Ukraine used to be the part of Russia, or the former what we say is that the USSR. The whole of the USSR became disintegrated after the 1991. What happened in 1991? 1991 was the period when the Cold War came to an end, and that the Cold War continued till and after your World War II. From the World War II up till 1991 was the period of Cold War. The Cold War which started between the USA and USSR. And the Cold War ended with Russia being disintegrated. We'll be having a brief discussion on the Cold War in our next video. Now, let us understand the timeline up to 2013. This is very much important to understand the present Russo-Ukrainian war. What happened in 2013 was the Euromaidan movement. What was this Euromaidan movement? The Euromaidan movement basically began when Viktor Yanukovych, the then president of the Ukraine, he refused to join the EU or the European Union. So when he refused to join the European Union, the people of the Ukraine started protesting, and this protest in 2013 was called as the Euromaidan movement. And the result of the Euromaidan movement was that Viktor Yanukovych had to resign. After resigning, he had to move to Russia, where he is still in exile. But what happened after 2013? After 2013, it was Petro Poroshenko who took over the administration, and then after Petro Poroshenko, it was Volodymyr Zelensky who has recently decided to join the NATO. And the present crisis is due to President Volodymyr Zelensky. But the crisis had already begun during the Petro Poroshenko. How? Because in 2013, after the resignation of Viktor Yanukovych, it was 2014 that during the term of Petro Poroshenko, Crimea was annexed by Russia. So basically, the NATO, whatever they had to do during the term of Petro Poroshenko. But till then, they kept quiet. And that was the very reason that Russia became more aggressive. Now, why has actually Russia trying to occupy Ukraine? Understand this. First of all, Russia is fearful. Russia is fearful that the NATO border, if Ukraine is joining the NATO, then the NATO border will be at Ukraine and not beyond Ukraine, and that the NATO can deploy nuclear arsenals at Ukraine, which would be very much disastrous to Russia. This is number one point. Number two, control of the Black Sea. Now, once Russia has controlled Ukraine, you can look at the Ukrainian border over here. You can see that the majority of the Black Sea portion will also be controlled by your Ukraine. So basically, when Russia occupies Ukraine, it would be undisputed champion over the Sea of Azov, and then it would be the undisputed champion in the Black Sea. Another one reason why the Russia is today raising a war is because of the nationalist sentiment. The nationalist sentiment that rose in Russia when Russia occupied Crimea. To be very precise in this context, Crimea was gifted to Ukraine by Russia. But with Ukraine determining to join NATO and Ukraine being more aligned towards the European Union nations, what happened was that Russia started doubting Ukraine, and the relation between Russia and Ukraine were not that good. Hence, after 2013, Russia decided to occupy Crimea. Now, another reason why Russia is occupying Crimea is because of the rich resources of the Crimean Peninsula and the Black Sea. What are these resources? Oil, natural gas, biotic resource, which include fish, seaweeds, etc. Now, all this have basically what happens is that Russia has been totally interested in controlling Ukraine and the Black Sea. Now, another thing you need to know over here is that what what reasons have Vladimir Putin given to occupy Russia? The first and foremost reason he sees that it has right to self-defense. But to be honest, Ukraine had never attacked Russia at no case. It's saying that it wants to have its self-defense because Ukraine is joining NATO. Another one reason is that Russia has accused Ukraine of committing genocide at Donetsk and Luhansk. Now, Donetsk and Luhansk are if this is the Ukraine, these are the easternmost regions of the Ukraine. Those are the Donetsk and this is the Luhansk. Now, these two regions are basically nothing but your pro-Russian people who stay over here. And they are more inclined towards Russia than towards Ukraine. But none such things have happened at Donetsk or Luhansk. Rather, what happened was that, as you can read from the statement of the President Vladimir, that he says that they were already ready to recognize the autonomy of Donetsk and Luhansk. But what happened was that Russia got these reasons as a international reasons for attacking Ukraine. But what is the real reason why Russia is attacking Ukraine? So it's nothing but to establish the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic, to bring back the glory of the former USSR. That is the very reason Russia is attacking Ukraine. But this will not stop at Ukraine. Russia will further attack Moldova. Moldova shares the boundary with Ukraine. If this is Ukraine, then this is over here. It's your Moldova. Now, we can see that Moldova has little or no army to protect itself. It has only 6,000 troops. So once Ukraine is under the Soviet or under the Russian regime, it will next go for Moldova. And at present, we know that Belarus is already supporting Vladimir Putin. So this is nothing but an expansionist ideologist. Now the problem over here is, what is India's position? Now India has basically chosen a neutral position. So what we can say is that India is saying that from now on we will choose non-alignment. Now non-alignment has been our biggest weapon even during the Cold War era and even now when there is a second Cold War. And now we are facing the Cold War 2.0, which might turn into a World War 3, but we are yet unknown what will happen. But in this case, what happened is that India has chosen the neutrality. Why? India cannot choose between Russia and USA. Neutral position is the best thing that we can do. And at present, we support India's stand. But then question happens, what will happen to the BRICS? Now, BRICS, what happened was one of the combined organization of your Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But what happened was that last year itself, Russia had signed the Delhi Resolution. The Delhi Resolution basically says that inadmissibility of the threat or use of force against territorial integrity or political independence of any state. So directly or indirectly, the BRICS summit and the Delhi Resolution had stated that no use of force will not be used for annexation of any kind of territory or imposition of political rule. So what we are seeing is that Russia is making a U-turn. Russia has totally made a U-turn from the Delhi Resolution. But what actually is right now happening? We need to understand in the crux. Right now, Vladimir Putin has his eye on bringing back the glory of the old Russia. Similarly, Hitler had the idea of bringing back the glory of the old German Empire. When Hitler used the term, he used this term Lebensraum. Lebensraum means expanding your motherland area. And what happened was that Hitler, when he started occupying parts of Europe, he looked very precisely into where there is a popular German population that would support his regime. Understand this. Russia cannot occupy a state until and unless he has sufficient support over there to occupy it. And that's why we are fearing that after the fall of Ukraine, it would be the fall of Moldova. The Moldova, which has significant Russian population again. That will be all for today. Thank you and have a good day.